We welcome you to the NovaCare Complex on a beautiful Thursday afternoon, and there he is, your newest Philadelphia Eagle, defensive end Robert Quinn, number 98, fresh in from Chicago, past the physicals, and he is here to give the Eagles a jolt in the pass rushing department. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy, and this is our continuing coverage of the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles, courtesy of our partners, DraftKings. And Fran, everybody here at the NovaCare Complex energized that Robert Quinn is in the house, and we know what he brings to the table. Why don't you explain in detail what kind of impact he could have on this Eagles defense?
In one word, Dave, he brings a ton of juice to this Eagles pass rush. And a pass rush that's already one of the best in the NFL gets a ton of explosiveness. I know the stats have not been there this year in 2022 with Robert Quinn, but if you look at things like next-gen stats and the movement, the athleticism, the explosiveness still there. They're working in a new defensive scheme out there in Chicago, asking him to do some different things than what he's done in the past. But this is a guy that always has been one of the most explosive pass rushers in football. His ability to win with his first step, his length, he can win high side. He's excellent on stunts and twists. He's got some of the best flexibility and the ability to turn the corner of anybody in the NFL. And so when you add him into the mix with Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat and Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, and you keep going down the list, I can't wait to see what this front looks like down the stretch for this Eagles defense.
And the term is bend, and Lane Johnson talked about it today. Quinn's ability to bend to the quarterback, to win with speed, and then to bend to the quarterback, something that is very unique in this game. And he's been doing it for a long, long time. A first-round draft pick by the Rams out of the University of North Carolina, 3 times in the Pro Bowl, 4 times double-digit sacks. As recently as 2021, eye-popping numbers, 18.5 sacks with the Bears. As you said, Fran, a new defensive scheme, lots of double teams, and certainly somebody with great character, a captain in Chicago. We saw the reaction from Roquan Smith yesterday when he found out that Quinn had been traded, buried his head into his sweatshirt, some tears, wiped away some emotion, and really, this is somebody who meant a lot to the Bears on the field, in the locker room. And Fran, now he's a Philadelphia Eagle, just days before the NFL trade deadline, which is Tuesday, November 1st at 4 p.m. We cannot overestimate just how much this means to the Eagles. We've seen it before in previous years. Obviously, Jay Ajayi back in 2017. Now, the Eagles getting some depth off the edge with Robert Quinn, and Fran, it sets up really nicely for these remaining 11 games.
And that's the thing, is that it's not even like this is a guy that's on the backside and all. This guy had 18.5 sacks last year for the Chicago Bears defense. So this is a guy that still has that explosiveness and that ability to be an effective rusher. Do you know one of the guys that tutored Robert Quinn early in his career, Dave, when he first got into the NFL? Our old friend Chris Long.
Oh yeah,
and with the St. Louis Rams at the time. And I think when you look at what Robert Quinn has brought to the table, his long history of being a productive pass rusher in the NFL, you again just factoring him in with the mix here of talent that you have in this defensive front, a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, really, really great addition. Howie Roseman making again, and there's still time between now and Tuesday at 4 p.m. Good news also today, Lane Johnson saying just a few moments ago at his locker here at the NovaCare Complex that he has cleared concussion protocol and is expected to go out and play against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. The Eagles entertaining the Steelers, the cross-state rivals, a team that has not won in Philadelphia since 1965. 9 straight Eagles wins in that time, and it's great to have Lane back at right tackle, Fran.
No question. I mean, he's the best in the game, arguably the best tackle in the game, not just right tackle, but when you look at what he brings to the field, I think a lot of fans, a lot of media understand what the success rates are with Lane on the field for this offense and how productive and how efficient they can be when he's manning that right tackle spot. Having him on the field, a huge boost going up against this Pittsburgh Steelers front. That, yeah, they're missing TJ Watt, but they still have some players that can be disruptive there on that front line.
So welcome back, Eagles fans. Hope you all enjoyed your bye week. A lot happening in the city of Philadelphia, obviously. Just to remind you, the Eagles are 6-0 under head coach Nick Sirianni, and the only undefeated team in the NFL, looking for win number 7 on Sunday against a 2-5 Steelers team. Fran, let's get into it a little bit about some of the things that Jalen Hurts will see from a Steelers defense. They will not have TJ Watt, but this still is aggressive, still going to give the Eagles a lot of different looks. And let's be honest, if you watch the game on Sunday night against the Miami Dolphins, should have had about 5 or 6 interceptions off Tua.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is a defensive secondary that, number one, has been banged up through the year and now starting to get a little bit healthier. They have a blue-chip player, one of the best safeties in football, in Minkah Fitzpatrick, who can change the game at any given snap. He's done that throughout the course of not just his career in Pittsburgh, but just this season. He had a pick 6 on Joe Burrow's first pass attempt of the season back in week 1. We're breaking that play down on Eagles game plan this week. He had a big pick a couple of weeks ago as well. When you look at Minkah, he can absolutely change the game. So Jalen Hurts, the Eagles offense, you have to be aware of where he is at any given time. They do a really good job with their disguises. They mix things up from a coverage standpoint, both man and zone, and they have corners that are very instinctive and very long, and that allows them to impact the catch point. You mentioned all the dropped interceptions they had a week ago. Those are kind of unlucky instances, but this team right now, very, very aggressive from a coverage standpoint, and they kind of are right in the middle of the road in terms of how often they blitz, how often they stunt. And so if you're the Eagles going in, it's not like Arizona where you know, hey, more often than not, this team's going to blitz. If we're going to drop back to pass, they're going to blitz. With the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're going to kind of pick their spots and pick and choose, and that means you have to be constantly on your toes if you're Jalen Hurts, Jason Kelce, and this Eagles offensive line.
If we could put that bottom third up again on Hurts, that graphic, just talking about in a 6-0 start and historically what he's done, it really is impressive. I think everybody kind of gets bogged down with Jalen Hurts can do this, Jalen Hurts doesn't do that. I mean, look at those 12 plus TDs and 2 or less giveaways. Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Peyton Manning.
Wow, that's
Eagles,
awesome.
It's just remarkable. A 6-0 record with those numbers. He's won 9 straight regular season games, Fran.
Yep.
He is in control of this offense. He comes in fresh, ready to go, far from content. I mean, without question, the Eagles coming in. I feel like the locker room this week, it's all been about, we're still hungry. We haven't done anything. In the upcoming Eagles Insider podcast, I had Landon Dickerson, and we were talking about his hometown and what would happen if the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And he almost bit my head off, saying, we haven't done anything. We've only won 6 games. And I think that is the great mentality. And that guy right there sets the tone.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that when you have that guy, when you have Jalen Hurts as the guy who is the tone setter, we know what his approach is. We hear it every single time he speaks, and that is the emotion, that is the attitude that has permeated itself throughout this entire locker room on both sides of the football. No one is satisfied with the current record. Everybody knows that at any given point things can change. NFL, not for long. Things can change in an instant. So I think at the end of the day, this is a team that's ready to take this 1 week at a time, which is the correct approach.
Yeah, it's really been just a great start. Obviously, for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's 6-0. Looking for more a college football season ahead of us, Fran. So there is just a long way to go, and things do change in a hurry in the NFL. So getting a player like Robert Quinn it just makes such a difference as you look to address any area on the roster that you can upgrade. And Howie Roseman, by having all of this draft capital, able to deal out a 4th-round pick in 2023, still knowing that the Eagles have 2 first-round picks in 2023, 2 second-round picks in 2024, 6 total draft picks as it stands now in 23, and we know that Howie can do pretty much anything between now and when next April rolls around.
I think too, when just circling back to the move yesterday to acquire Robert Quinn, is that this is a player and a position that not just like, okay, over the course of a season he can make impact plays, but when it's crunch time, when it's late in games and must-have situations, you need a big play. Almost like what happened in the Jacksonville game. The Jaguars get the ball back, down 1 score, a couple minutes left on the clock. You have a Hassan Reddick that can go and take the ball away on the very first play, sudden change situation, go out, first play of the drive, sack, fumble, game over. That's what Robert Quinn brings to you. So having another guy in the rotation on the team with that group that can go out and make a play for you, playing for such an important position, that is so big for this team with high aspirations.
Fran, the last time we saw the Eagles, it was Sunday Night Football at Lincoln Financial Field against the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles with that huge second quarter. And then a third quarter lull, Dallas gets back into the game. And then the Eagles' fourth quarter showing some power football, bread and butter, smash mouth, run the ball. And then down in the red zone, making big plays in the pass game. And then the defense comes up big with another takeaway. C.J. Gardner-Johnson with that interception in the fourth quarter, icing things. That's kind of been a microcosm of what this team has done in 6 games. They beat you in a lot of different ways, Fran. Some takeaways after 6 games for you.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that this is an offense that can beat you in so many different ways. Like you said, there are just so many different layers that you have to be ready for. And you could see the frustration, whether you're watching on TV, whether you're in the press box, in the stands, or watching on tape the next week. You could see the frustration from the Dallas Cowboys defensively because you know what's going to happen. We had Jason Kelce mic'd up, his audible that went out last week. You had Jason Kelce mic'd up, and what does he say before the one quarterback sneak? You guys know it's coming, and you can't do anything to stop it. The Eagles have just so many layers on top of what they do: run game, pass game, RPO game, screen game, play action game, empty sets, all different kinds of formations, and they run similar plays out of all of these different looks. So as a defense, you know it's one of 3 or 4 things. We have to be ready to stop those 3 or 4 things. But all you have to do, all it takes is one misstep, one miscalculation, one bad angle, and the Eagles have playmakers all over the field to make you pay.
Yeah, and the Eagles just by adding to the roster and starting kind of with this guy in the offseason, well, at least not really, in the draft process, that draft weekend after adding Kaiser White and Hassan Reddick in free agency, able to add A.J. Brown, Fran, really changed the complexity of this Eagles offense, really the complexion of the Eagles offense. Big, physical, strong. We see what AJ
big.
does.
Yeah,
Look how
look at
thick
him. He looks like a
he is.
DN.
I mean, that is a big, muscular man who plays like a big, muscular man. Sometimes we've seen players who are all muscled up and don't play that way. AJ Brown invites in. There we go. In having some fun. See, this is just team having fun. This is a football team that is having fun, and he plays like a friend. It's look at that. I mean, he punishes defensive backs.
Yeah, that's the thing is that when you have a player like this where you just get the ball in his hands, and we saw that on that touchdown. It happened on the little RPO. He's running to the flat. Jalen Hurts gets the ball in his hands, and he's 10, 11 yards short of the end zone, but he puts his foot in the ground. He gets north-south. If you're a defensive back, you're 200 pounds, you're 178 pounds, 185 pounds, whatever it is, you are smaller than the guy wearing the number 11 jersey in green coming right at you, and you have to make a decision at that point in an instant. Am I going to have what it takes to stop this guy or not? And chances are you're not going to have it.
Now, let's look at the Steelers here. 2-5 team, playing good football, playing hard football. Certainly will come in here very spirited. This game, the ticket demand off the charts.
Yes.
The most difficult ticket of the year. It is sold out, beyond sold out. So what will the Eagles offense be looking at? You mentioned Minkah Fitzpatrick. There's also Devin Bush to contend with. There's also Cameron Hayward to contend with. What are we looking at with the Steelers defensively? How do the Eagles go after Pittsburgh's defense?
I think there are 2 blue chip players on that defense. I talked about Minkah earlier, that safety, and he does so many different things for them from a secondary standpoint. The other is the guy you just mentioned, Cam Hayward up front. So powerful. He's so strong, and he's one of the big reasons why they have one of the better run defenses in the NFL. Now, the Eagles have shown they are not one to be scared of a top run defense. We know what they've done to number 1 rush defenses in the NFL over these last couple of years, but the Steelers are very good against the run. Cam Hayward, a big part of that. I think when you look at their linebackers, they're trying to figure out what's the best combination for them between Devin Bush, Miles Jack, and there's plenty of reps there from number 41, Robert Spillane as well. It seems like they're trying to work Devin Bush out of these passing situations, get him off the field, work Spillane in there a little bit more often. I think the other guy that you have to kind of watch out for, Dave, the cornerback Cam Sutton, number 20. He's an instinctive player. He's coming off an injury of his own. He was kind of limited last week, but it seems like he's going to be more of a full go here against the Eagles on Sunday. He would be the other guy defensively that I would earmark, along with Alex Highsmith, who's, I believe, the leader in sacks going into this game, former 3rd-round pick who has really kind of come into his own, got off to a really hot start. So I would keep an eye on those 2 players, Sutton and Highsmith from the Steelers defense.
The Eagles coming off their bye week. I don't know how you enjoyed yours out there, but Jason Kelce, the legend, added almost impossibly another layer to his legend by showing up at Citizens Bank Park before the Phillies playoff game against the San Diego Padres, slamming a beer, and then doing an epic hug, chest bump, embrace with the Philly fanatic to get the Phillies fans, as if they needed it, just a little bit more jacked up. Fran, what else can we say about Jason Kelce? The finest, center in the NFL, who happens to just be somebody who just keeps getting better and better and better in every way as he works with Cam Jurgens there for some pre-practice instruction.
Yeah, I had Jeff Statland on Eagles Game Plan last week going into the bye week, and just hearing Coach Statland talk about Jason Kelce, and not just from a physical standpoint and, talking about all the leadership he shows and all of that. Obviously, I think we all understand that, but also talk about one of the things that makes him great. You have to love and embrace that role. You have to, if you're just kind of like, you know what, football's great and all, but it's more of like a means to an end, that you can't be a great player if you don't have that love and that passion and that fire. And that's exactly what Jason Kelce brings to the table. And that carries over not just to like practice field and game day, but every day in the meeting room when they're doing game plan meetings and just going through everything on any given week. It was great just hearing Jeff Statland talk about that aspect of what Jason Kelce brings to the table.
We welcome you to our continuing coverage of the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles. We open the curtain and give you a peek behind. It's really a beautiful day, as you can see. It's a beautiful, beautiful fall day at the NovaCare Complex. Our coverage presented by DraftKings. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. The Eagles getting ready for the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field. The start of a pretty quick turnaround here, an interesting schedule here. It's Pittsburgh. It's a road game then to Thursday Night Football against the Houston Texans, and then a little mini bye weekend and a long wait for Taylor Heinicke and the Washington Commanders to come to town. So 3 games that are really important, Fran, and however you think they look on paper, let's go back to Monday Night Football and the way the Chicago Bears whooped up on the New England Patriots. Everybody, do not take a thing for granted. And by the way, the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys clapping at the heels of the Philadelphia Eagles in what is all of a sudden the NFC beast.
Every single game is going to be important this year. And I think when you look at this Eagles team, they've got the correct mindset going into it week by week. It's a 1-week season and all of those different mantras you hear. And I think that is the right attitude and especially going to be necessary here in 2022. When you look at these next 3 games, we're recording this, it's Thursday afternoon. So the Eagles have 2 games in the next 7 days going down on the road to take on this Texans team. It's not going to be easy going up against that group. They've got some young players on both offense and defense. They are going to be ready to give the Eagles their best shot. They want to try and knock off a potentially undefeated team if the Eagles are able to come out unscathed against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you're going to get your best shot there. And then obviously Washington the week after that. So this NFC East, no joke. You see right there, there are 7 losses between the 4 teams, and a couple of them have been against other NFC East teams. I think they've only got 2 combined losses outside of the division right now. And so that is obviously a very, very impressive start to the season for this division.
Fran, it's just really pretty incredible stuff there. It starts on Sunday, the Steelers, and of course the Steelers, a new era. They used their first-round draft pick on University of Pittsburgh quarterback Kenny Pickett. We know the numbers: 2 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. From what I've been told from people up in Pittsburgh, he does have the it factor. He has thrown interceptions. He has made mistakes. What will the Eagles see from Pickett and a trio of just super talented receivers? It's not going to be particularly easy for the Eagles defense.
No, I think, and when you look just at the numbers for Pickett, I think that it doesn't tell the complete story either, because a couple of those interceptions, one was on a Hail Mary at the end of the game, a couple bounced off receivers' hands, a receiver fell down. So you can kind of write that into it. But at the end of the day, I think when you look at Pickett, he runs an offense right now that is not, there aren't a lot of easy answers built. They put a lot on his shoulders to say, all right, rookie, you got to go out and make some tough throws down the field. They attack downfield as often as anybody in the NFL. And you would think normally, if they're going to try and push the ball downfield, that means the ball is going to be, he's going to hold the ball a long time. It's going to be play action, shot plays. No, this is very similar. We talked about this on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast that just dropped here this afternoon, Dave. So you can go check that out wherever podcasts can be found for all of our listeners out there. That it's very similar to what we talked about with Tom Brady going into the game last year, where the ball goes out very, very fast, but they attack downfield very, very often. And so you have to be ready for everything they're willing to throw your way. It's a lot of vertical shots outside the numbers, try and get the ball to Deontay Johnson and to George Pickens. But at the end of the day, this is an offense that you have to try and limit those big plays on the outside. You mentioned the talent they've got at wide receiver. Chase Claypool, that was kind of his coming out party the last time these two teams met in 2020. You don't want to let him get going. He's one of the better height, weight, speed athletes at the position in the NFL. And so I think when you look at this Steelers offense, plenty of weapons that you've got to contend with. We didn't even talk about the tight end, Pat Freiermuth, the second-round pick from last year as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting group. And again, young quarterback Ben Roethlisberger is no longer. So it's a new era. And it's something the Steeler fans, Fran, aren't used to, and that's losing football games. And you wonder how the locker room is going to handle it, how Mike Tomlin's going to handle it. They seem to be playing really hard. And again, against Miami, they were right there and certainly had chances to win that game on Sunday night.
Yeah, this is a team. I mean, Mike Tomlin still to this point, I believe, has never had a losing record as a head coach. It's just an unbelievable job that he's done since he's been hired there by the Steelers. So, yeah, this is a team that's you're going to get everything they've got here on Sunday afternoon at Lincoln Financial Field.
We are watching the Philadelphia Eagles at the NovaCare Complex on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. South Philadelphia is buzzing, as you might imagine. The NovaCare Complex rocking. Robert Quinn is in the house and on the practice field wearing jersey number 98. Lane Johnson, in case you missed the news, is on the practice field, having cleared the concussion protocol. So the Eagles largely really healthy for this game, as we all hoped coming off the bye week. Philadelphia 6-0. Looking, Fran, to put together that four-quarter game on offense. That certainly is something this team needs to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that despite the record being through 7 weeks, this is a team that still feels like we haven't played a four-quarter game yet. We have not played our best football yet on either side. We have not put together a complete game. This is a team that is still very hungry to prove what exactly they can be moving forward in the second half of 2022.
So we got you covered on this Thursday. Now on Sunday, Fran, a lot going on, and
Yes.
we want you to be with us every step of the way. First, on NBC 10, we've got the Game Plan show. You're all fired up for that. What do you got for the show this week?
So we've got myself and James Bradbury. James Bradbury stops by for some film breakdowns. We went through a lot of his big plays that he's made so far this year. We talked about his relationship with Darius Slay, the battles he's had with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith every day out at practice. So really good stuff there from James Bradbury. But obviously, this is all centered towards getting you ready for Eagles Steelers. So film breakdowns from Greg Cosell, Mike Quick, Ike Reese, John Clark hosting, really just trying to cover all the bases, getting you ready for Eagles Steelers 1 o'clock on Sunday.
It's fantastic. And then the game begins, before the game, make sure you're by the computer. If you can't get to Lincoln Financial Field, we've got you covered. Our kickoff show presented by Little Caesars begins at 12:10. And we've got you covered from the studio and from Lincoln Financial Field as the Eagles take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Throughout the game, follow us on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, our social media channels, our official app, and we'll have everything for you lickety-split. Our post-game show presented by Rico. Whoa!
It never gets old just seeing those guys do that.
Lane, you think you're ready to go here? Look at
To other 300-pound men.
Yeah, exactly. I think Lane's pretty glad to be back on the. Is that a smile from Jeff Stoutland, possibly?
I think so.
Nah. I don't think so. But certainly the Eagles really riding it from the offensive line. Post-game show presented by Rico. It's Fran, it's Ella, it's Ike here in the studio. I do a little post-game hit. And we are hopeful, expecting, optimistic, win number 7 for the Philadelphia Eagles. You always wonder, though, Fran, how the team's going to react in the post-bye week. The sense that I've gotten is that this is a hungry team, as A.J. Brown says, that understands it has not accomplished anything because the goal is much larger, much larger than 6-0.
2004, this team was undefeated going into a week, I believe it was a week 8 game that year, the first week of November, going into a game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was the week that team dropped their first loss of the season. And so you have to go in ready to win this football game against a team that like I said, they are going to give you their best shot. You're going to get that from every single game, every single team, every single week. But this Steelers team with Mike Tomlin, a ton of pride, very well coached. You're going to get their best shot in this game.
Dave Spadaro along with Fran Duffy. It's a Thursday afternoon at the NovaCare Complex. Our continuing coverage of the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles, presented by DraftKings, makes you want to dance. Yeah, Zach Pascal. We're taking a look at the Eagles as they go through their warm-up session and the individual sessions. So much reliant here. The fundamentals we have been watching for months, really a year and a half now. And Fran, the giveaway numbers down to 2. Eagles haven't had as few as 2 turnovers in the first 6 games of a season since when? Since 1937. That's how long it's been.
That's why they weren't throwing the ball either. So
That's
interceptions
right.
are not.
That's right. I remember it well. And look, the penalty numbers: 10 in game number 1 at Detroit, 8 against the Vikings, and then it's come down, down, down. Eagles among the top 10 teams, inside that top 10 in terms of total penalties per game. That number has really, really decreased. There's Greg Ward, by the way, added to the practice squad. Familiar number 84. Interesting move there, Fran.
Yeah.
Good glue guy. Somebody that if you need him in the pinch, somebody gets hurt, somebody gets sick, you can put him in a lot of different positions at wide receiver as a return man as well, can really fill a need for you any particular week and go out and make some really good plays.
Yeah, special teams coverage as well, not just as a return man, so you can offer some value there. I think that, adding him makes a ton of sense here for this team here at this point in the season. I think going back to what you're talking about in terms of what are the things that we've heard Nick Sirianni stress over and over and over is protecting the football on both sides, and that's creating, creating turnovers, protecting the ball on offense, and then limiting explosive plays. And the Eagles are high up in all of these categories on offense and defense, and what have we seen is a team that is undefeated. And so if you're a player and you're hearing your coach say over and over, these are the things that we're going to stress, and if you do these things, we are going to win, to see that then be fruitful and you carry through this undefeated record, that just gives you a little bit more confidence. Say all right, the coach is putting us in position to win these games. We got to keep this up.
Yeah, and the takeaways have been really just off the charts too. The Eagles, 14 of them. That number probably goes up with the with the addition of the mighty Quinn. I mean, it's if you have a pass rush and you can come from multiple angles with multiple pass rush players, it's just tough for offenses to account for that. Again, Howie Roseman and his personnel staff upstairs, everybody, it's not just going out and getting good talent, it's getting the talent that fits here. Now, there's an intriguing player there, Fran. Tyree Jackson, a young tight end, former quarterback at University of Buffalo. His practice window is open.
Yep.
He's got 21 days to show the Eagles that he is healthy enough, ready enough, and can be a factor down the stretch here, or they shelve him for the remainder of the season.
So remember, so for our listeners that maybe don't remember, he had that outstanding training camp last summer. He was every single play. Tyree Jackson was making plays. Gets hurt, misses the first chunk of the season. Came back in, and we saw some flashes from him last season on the field in practice. But then gets hurt in the final game of the regular season. So then has missed this entire off season. Now with that practice window open, we'll see if he can regain some of that and join a tight end room that is really interesting, Dave. A lot of youth behind Dallas Goedert, and Goedert, one of the best tight ends in football. We haven't talked much about that today, but obviously could be a huge addition here for this Eagles offense.
Yeah, it's interesting. Look, I mean, you look at the tight ends. What are you going to? Jack Stoll, terrific blocker, made a big catch against the Cowboys. Grant Calcaterra, a draft pick. So who knows what the Eagles are going to do there, but it's nice to have options. It's nice to have this window, a 3-week window, as Janaris Robinson giving Robert Quinn some pointers on what the Eagles want from their defensive ends. It doesn't seem to me, Fran, that it's going to take Robert Quinn a lot of time to fit in, and we do kind of expect to see him. We think, this is just our speculation, that he'll play on Sunday.
Yeah, he's got a few days to get himself ready. He got into town today. Was obviously here now on the practice field, so you got a couple practices under your belt. He'll have 3 days worth of meetings. He'll cram all the information he can, we'll see exactly how much of a role he'll be able to play on Sunday.
What does he have to learn, Fran?
So it depends. Basically, when you get a new player added midweek and you want to try and factor him into the rotation, you're going to give him a couple of different packages. And we've talked about all the different packages the Eagles have from a front standpoint. We know that when they're in their 5-man front, that's when Jordan Davis is out in the field.
And when
they're a 4-man front, they're not. So now, hey, this is going to be what you're going to do in this front. This is going to be your technique on this kind of play call. This is what we're going to ask you to do. These are the techniques that you're going to be asked to play, both run game and pass game. What are going to be your gap assignments on this given call? This is how they want you to attack certain blocks in the run game. So that's all the things that he's going to have to learn over these next couple of days. But at that position, it's a little bit of a lighter load than it would be at others.
Yeah, and certainly if somebody who's been traded, I think this is the 3rd time he's been traded in his career. He understands what it takes to get acclimated very quickly. He's played in 4 different systems now.
Yep.
I don't think what the Eagles are doing is so different than what he's done in the past. Will generally line up over the left tackle.
Generally, yep.
Can play as stand-up, can play with his hand in the dirt.
Yep.
And wins with speed. Gets off the ball, and bends to the quarterback and has been enormously successful in his career doing that.
Yes, and that's the thing is that when you then factor him in with all these guys that you see here in this picture, right? So we know like Josh Sweat, he's got that ability, and that's one of the things we love about Sweat is that he can win with power, he can win with speed. Hassan Reddick known more for his ability to win with speed, but also has that ability to win with power. Brandon Graham, we see in the background there, his ability to push tackles back into the quarterback's lap. So when you have all these guys that can win in a number of different ways, and on any given rush, let's say, let's throw a situation out there. You have Brandon Graham who's going to win with power. He's going to push the tackle back into the quarterback's lap so the quarterback has pressure right in his face. Then you have Robert Quinn coming off the edge, running by the left tackle. Well, now you've got a pass rusher coming from your blind side behind you. You've got Brandon Graham coming in your face in front of you to the right. You've got Cox and Hargrave and Jordan Davis and Milton Williams. You keep going down the list of the guys that are pushing the pocket. Well, now you've got rushers coming at you from every different angle, and they call that layering your rush. Having guys that it's not just, all right, everybody go to the same spot. You have all these different rushers attacking from different angles and hitting different landmarks where the quarterback could be in the pocket. And so that's a huge part of the way this Eagles defense improves by adding a guy like Robert Quinn who can attack you and be very, very effective off the edge from that with that speed.
Big play Slay there, and we talked earlier, Fran, about the matchup a little bit with Claypool and Johnson and Pickens. And for fans, Fran, who don't know them, we know Claypool, we know Deontay Johnson. They're very, very high on George Pickens. Out of Tennessee. Spectacular catch, amazing athlete. I mean, the Eagles week after week are going up against great wide receivers. I think this is as talented a group maybe as the Eagles have seen them. Look, I'm not going to diminish Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson and what the Vikings brought to town, but young, good receivers. It'll be a great matchup for Slay and Bradbury and Maddox.
Yeah, and Deontay Johnson, probably their best route runner. He can get in and out of breaks really, really well. They're definitely their savviest of those three starters. George Pickens, the rookie second-round pick, 6'3", 200 pounds. He's the prototype as an ex-receiver. He can go out and win on those ISO balls, those back shoulder fades, and those jump ball situations. He had a really great touchdown this past week against Miami where you saw Pickett just kind of lay it up and let him go get it. He's got that ability to win in that way at the catch point, and we already touched on Claypool.
All righty, we all thank you, Eagles everywhere, for joining us on this Thursday afternoon, our continuing coverage of the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles from the NovaCare Complex. Our coverage presented by DraftKings. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. For Fran Duffy, we'll see you on Sunday. It's the Eagles and the Steelers from Lincoln Financial Field. Join us at 12:10 for the kickoff show presented by Little Caesars. Have yourselves a great Eagles day. Fly, Eagles, fly, and go Birds!